On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Big Ten, everything you need to know about the Big Ten Conference every single weekday. Alongside our Friday co-host, Matt Sheehan, I'm Nate Dickinson. We're talking everything that went on in the Big Ten this week. We've had previews all week long. Going to take a day off to recap all the stuff that we missed over the week. Plenty to talk about. Nebraska under investigation in football. The Big Ten thinking about realigning with the ACC and the Big 12, was it? Or Pac-12? Anyway, we'll talk about all of it here. It's Locked On Big Ten here to finish up the week. Matt, let's start by asking you, what did you think was the biggest news out of the Big Ten this week? Because there are a whole lot of really big picture things happening as we start to focus in on individual teams and things on our show.
Yeah, no doubt. The conference news is massive, obviously, but at the same time, I'm just kind of tired of it. So obviously the sex appeal of the Nebraska stuff going on, that stuck out to me a little more. Now, was it like the craziest thing in the entire world? No, I can name worse things for football program to do. But at the same time, like, you got to appreciate the irony that, yeah, Nebraska is being brought down for these allegations of, I guess, cheating, for lack of a better term. And they're still not really producing incredible seasons by any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah, it was prime for the picking of internet jokes when that all came out. So I got to give the Nebraska news first place here for story of the week in the Big Ten.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of stuff just leaking out, but it doesn't seem like Nebraska's violations were all that severe. It doesn't look like there was anything with like recruiting or anything like that, but it still puts that kind of asterisk on Scott Frost and this program for the moment, at least. What do you think this means for Nebraska? And what hard thing to predict without knowing much, though.
Yeah, I know. I don't imagine this could do much. Maybe it gets them another reason to maybe speed up the Scott Frost hot seat process. I imagine this doesn't help things in that regard. But yeah, as to what the fallout's going to be, just like you said, they weren't the craziest allegations. It's not like what was going on at Arizona State where you're having recruiting events in a definite down period with COVID. And look what's happened at Arizona State. Not much. They're still going to have their season. Like, Herm Edwards is still there. So, what will happen at Nebraska? Hey, it was a lot of fun this week. It was a really fun story. But if I'm a Huskers fan, I don't think I'm sweating too much over this. I'm doing okay if I'm a Nebraska guy.
If anything ends up coming of this, no matter how severe or minor or whatever it is, I mean, Can we expect it anytime soon?
Oh, if it's the NCAA that I know, if it's the one that I've grown up following, I would expect something by 2037, maybe, when Nebraska plays in the Pac 80 or whatever it's going to be called by the time conference realigns 3 times by then. But no, soon in the NCAA, incredibly hard time believing that. Watch it actually be the one time that they actually do move quickly and they're stricken down over the weekend.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening with Nebraska on that front, and we can talk more about that as the show gets started. But you mentioned the conference realignment side of this too, Matt, and the Big Ten had its name in those stories this week as well, earlier this week. In fact, I believe it was even over the weekend that the story that broke. There were talks apparently between the Big Ten, ACC, and Pac-12 to come together to form some sort of super conference, whatever it is that they would put together to try to challenge what the SEC is doing here. I think it's an idea that we hadn't really thought of just because it's kind of all really big scale. The wildest stuff we had heard on this show was like bringing USC and Notre Dame. But that seems to be maybe the best idea I've heard as to how to challenge whatever SEC wants to do. Because right now it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, what anybody else does individually. The SEC is going to be able to stay on top no matter what. If everyone comes together, maybe not. But it's also a long way from actually happening. It's a big conversation, Matt. I'm confused and wondering where you want to start with it.
I know. And it does make sense for those three conferences to team up, right? Because I think the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12, those combined equals the strength of the SEC. I know that a lot of people get up in arms like, oh, there's such an SEC bias. Everyone thinks the SEC is all this and that. I kind of subscribe to that. Yeah, I think they're pretty good. Call me insane, but I mean, and it's very clear that they're just picking out whatever team they want to join their conference. Texas and Oklahoma jumped ship at the first chance they could when the SEC approached them. So yeah, would I be freaking out if I'm an athletic director or a commissioner of one of these conferences? Of course I would be. Who's to say Ohio State wouldn't leave tomorrow if they were asked to go to the SEC? It is a complete wagon going on down there in that part of the country. So yeah, I think it's their only choice is to form some form of alliance, just to try to balance it with the SEC on a little teeter-totter. Because right now, yeah, SEC is so high and beyond everyone, especially with Texas and Oklahoma. It's like, yeah, it's time to team up here, and realizing that just us as a conference singular might not work for much longer. And I think especially too with like how secret this whole Texas and Oklahoma thing was too, that has got to leave a lot of athletic directors and commissioners paranoid beyond belief. This thing was in the works for months, and they had no idea until like a little news story just drops on Twitter. It's like, oh, that's funny. Wow, okay, that's great. So it's time to start aligning here with each other.
Well, the other option is to do nothing. And I think that is
scary,
exactly what the Big Ten's plan is until its hand is forced here, because even with all the football money out there, the Big Ten still has the most money-making, revenue-making schools. It has the biggest kind of, I'm trying to find the right word, budget out of any conference in all of sports, including the SEC. The Big Ten makes more money every single season because it does both the basketball and the football really well. So until it's put in a situation where it could have its hand forced, where it says, okay, Ohio State and Michigan are going to leave or something like that, I don't see a reason for the Big Ten to do anything. Yeah, the SEC is getting bigger and tougher and stronger, but at least for right now, it's not hurting us, and there's no reason for me as a Big Ten school to try and lift up everything in the Pac-12 every September through December.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. I guess it's just the paranoia aspect, though, and just how fast it all happened for Texas and Oklahoma. Granted, yeah, like the Big Ten is a little different than the Big 12 in the sense that it's very top heavy over there as far as brands, especially. Like it's Texas, Oklahoma, okay, and then like no one else. The Big Ten, yeah, you got Ohio State, you got Michigan, and then it's Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan State, probably in that second tier. Illinois or Indiana, if you want to throw them in as well. It's a little more balanced in the Big Ten. So yeah, it's not going to keep me up throughout the entire night, but I would certainly lose a few hours of sleep if I was like Kevin Warren, just because who knows? I'll say it like for the 80th time, I'd just be shook at knowing how like under the radar the whole Texas and Oklahoma thing fell. It's like who are really your friends here and who are really your enemies? You got to sleep with one eye open here these days as a college administrator.
That's definitely playing a part, and it's something I want to touch on more exactly is this aspect, this kind of factor of the idea that these guys are kind of going against each other in all of this while also trying to figure out how to work together to make something work. But we'll discuss all that here in just a little bit. Again, here on a Friday show, we're kind of taking a break from the previews to give you a recap of everything you may have missed over the week. Also later on with Matt, we'll get into a bit of some of those opening betting lines for the first week of Big Ten football season as well. Talk about who you could make some money on early this season. It's all coming up right here on Locked On at Big Ten. Hey, Nate Dickinson here with Locked On Big Ten, here to tell you a little bit more about Built Bar, helping you get the show here today. Built Bar is the place to go for all of your protein needs. They have more than 15 grams of protein per bar with less than 5 net grams of carbs and 5 grams of sugars as well. It's all the healthy stuff you want without any of that unwanted filler, but great flavor too. Built Bar has 100% chocolate in every single bar, and these things taste outstanding. People are loving the new grasshopper flavor. It's supposed to be a little bit of a play on the mint brownie Girl Scout cookies that people like so much. So you can go and try that or any other flavor out right now at BuiltBar.com and save some money by using our promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off your first order at BuiltBar.com. Built Bar, the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team, so you know these guys are legit. That's Built Bar, helping you get the show here today, and we thank you, Built Bar. Welcome back to Locked On Big Ten. Everything you need to know about the Big Ten Conference every single weekday. We're here with Matt Sheehan, our Friday co-host, to talk about everything that went down in the Big Ten this week. We've chatted a little bit about some of the news, but as you know, if you're familiar with Big Ten, Matt's our betting guy as well, who likes to talk lines and everything with us on the show. Did a whole lot with Ben Stevens, but has not been on that game as much with us. But we're getting into the thick of things now, Matt. We've got games, we've got lines, and the first week of the Big Ten season is just a couple of weeks away. Have you been keeping yourself warmed up as you've gone through this offseason? Do you bet on the baseball, soccer, basketball, stuff like that?
Yeah, big into golf too. Won a Kevin Kisner bet last weekend. But no, I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm all high and mighty this summer. I went maybe like 2 for 48 in the Olympics. So I got all the losses on me. I'm ready for win after win after win this college football season. I think that's how it works, right? The law of averages, it all balances out eventually. Surely that's how it works in gambling. So I'm ready.
You are. You're due. Yeah. And at some point, it becomes a bit of a skill losing that much, too. Law of averages would say it's very hard to lose as much as you did. You're a very special bettor you have there, Matt.
I defied the odds, yeah. But you know what? I got up every single time. I got off the mat all 48 times to continually lose money. But, yeah, that's hey, that's part of the fun.
That's the spirit? Yeah.
Sure? Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. There we go.
All right, well, let's talk some lines here, Matt. As we get into the first week of the season, we've done team totals for overs and unders, I believe, already. I think that was something, actually, I came on with Ben Stevens to talk about when those first came out from BetOnline. But right now, we're getting into this just first week of the season. Our first look at getting bets on individual games. And to be quite honest, the Big Ten has an awesome slate of first week games in 2021. Yeah. They have treated these fans that are coming back well right off the bat. And we'll start with the first game of that season. Illinois is a 6.5-point favorite over Nebraska at home. And we talked about it. Wow, what an exciting one to start off the year.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
I'm sorry, 6.5-point underdog Illinois is at home.
Okay, I was going to say that if that's really the line. Okay, got it. So underdog. Got it. I was about to take out a bank loan and put it all on Nebraska getting 6.5. But no, even giving 6.5, I don't hate that for them. I think, like, listen, we all have our Nebraska jokes. Hell, I made one in the top of the show here. I think. And God, I fall down this trap all the time. It's just like, what happened last year? Like, I saw some positive things at the end of last season for Nebraska. I like the quarterback play coming into this year as well. So, yeah, I don't really have necessarily any reason to have faith in Brett Bielema, especially this early in his tenure at Illinois. I'm going to have to go with Scott Frost, who sees that seat warming up a little bit here in week 1. So, yeah, I like Huskers minus 6.5. Why not? God, what an awesome game, too, just like you're saying. Like, here we are just, like, teaming for college football, and they just throw us Nebraska, Illinois. Here, enjoy it. You suckers will take anything and watch it and like it. So, and I will.
Yeah, we will. We will enjoy it. And it is a bit of a tough game. I mean, Illinois is a team where we're just kind of trying to figure it out what exactly that's going to be at all this season. While Nebraska, you mentioned, Adrian Martinez is an intriguing kind of guy, is a betting prospect at quarterback. You know, he has that ability with his feet to explode. So, you know, he's going to be fun to watch, be fun to bet on too. If I'm putting my money anywhere, it's going to be on Nebraska. But this game, it's kind of a point where it's just so early in the season. And I do have a rule where you don't bet on games with 2 bad teams. And I think this is a game of 2 bad teams, or at the very least 2 not good teams.
Yeah.
And so I'm keeping my money away in general, but if I need a side, I'm going Nebraska, no doubt.
That's a good rule. That's not a fun rule, but that's a smart rule. That is a financially responsible rule. So one that I will not follow this year, but that's a good one to hold on to. That's a good one.
Yeah, I guess I don't always follow it either, but when it's convenient,
everyone breaks eventually.
When I'm convenient, I'll bring it out. And right here, it's convenient for me to not want to bet
Perfect,
on the Nebraska game.
Excellent.
Let's move on to Thursday, September 2nd, the week after. So that game happens in technically week 0, August 28th on that Saturday. That Thursday after, we have 2 games, one not so big. Rutgers is a 14-point favorite at home against Temple. But then Minnesota, a 14-point underdog at home opening against Ohio State. And the Buckeyes, let's start there. Seems like a lot of points for a Minnesota team that won 10 games just 2 years ago to be giving up. But this is Ohio State, and Minnesota did go 3-4 last season without looking really good at times.
I know. And it's what we talked about last week, too. It's like, how much of that was COVID, 3-4. Like Minnesota had a very wonky year, especially to start the season. Like they were essentially playing frat guys on defense. They were just going up and down frat row looking for anyone to put a jersey on and play, it seemed like. But yeah, 2 years ago, 10 wins, Ohio State breaking in a new quarterback. Then again, like their whole roster probably has the same talent level of a smaller, NFL team. 14 is a lot of points, but I don't think it's enough for Ohio State. I think Ohio State turns the Jets on, and they beat them by like 28 points in week 1. They're here to set a tone early in conference play. So, yeah, I'm gonna hand out the 14 points.
Yeah, everything motivationally says go with Minnesota. This game's in Minneapolis. Yeah. Minnesota has something to prove. It's been circling this game forever. It's the first time they're going to have fans in that stadium since that 10-win season. So there's plenty of reasons to think that Minnesota is going to be able to come out of the gates firing hot, but you understand who they're going up against in that first week of the season in the Buckeyes. As far as making mistakes off the bat, like I talked about with Illinois and Nebraska, that might be a sloppy game. Those first game adjustments are going to be much smaller for Ohio State to try and make over in Minnesota. So it's just going to have to be a much cleaner first game of the season for Minnesota to try and cover that spread. And I don't see the Gophers being able to play that clean of a game off the bat. I would love to see this game week 7, week 8 of the season.
Sure.
Week 1 is a bit of a robbery, if you ask me. I feel like Ohio State's going to get away with something here.
Yeah, and any other program in the nation, say for like 5, you could wonder, is the new quarterback going to change things? Like, when has that ever mattered for Ohio State? Like in the last 10, 15 years, breaking in a new quarterback, it's just next man up. It's a factory over there. So I'm not going to take too much stock in that. Really quick though, I like Rutgers minus 14 a lot. By the way, just throwing that out there. I think Shiano was unfortunately doing a great job in Piscataway, and Temple. Well, they don't have the quarterback because now he's at Michigan State. He transferred here, so they're starting ground up from a new quarterback, and that's one of the programs where I think breaking in a new quarterback actually does matter over there in Temple. So, lay the points on Rutgers, baby. Lay them. Hand them up.
Just looking down the line here, last of what'll be 4 Big Ten games before the first Saturday of week 1 in college football. Michigan State's at Northwestern on Friday, September 3rd, a late one at 9 p.m. over in Evanston. Northwestern right now 3.5-point favorites over a Spartans team that's trying to figure out a whole lot of stuff on its side of the ball too. Kind of like Ohio State, they just don't have the wins to kind of back it up.
That's a fascinating game. And 3.5, I think that's moved down 3 full points. It opened up at 6.5 for Northwestern, so that's intriguing as well. They just named their quarterback Hunter Johnson, who I wouldn't be necessarily inspired by after watching him 2 years ago. But then again, I also don't want to jinx anything, so I'm going to stop talking right there. But Northwestern is, I think, if not last, they're second to last in Division I football for returning productivity. Like, they lost so many players last year. So, MSU is breaking in a lot of new faces, a lot of new transfers, new quarterback. So are the Wildcats, though. So it's going to be a very intriguing game. What stands out to me the most, take Michigan State plus 3.5. But even beyond that, take the under. I think the under is at 38 or 38.5 or something, like somewhere in the ballpark of high 30s. That's going to have to get down to 25 for me to consider betting the over. This is going to be a grimy game. It's going to be disgusting. You're going to hate every minute of it. But if you bet the under, you might like the outcome there in your bankroll. So that's my best piece of advice for that one.
It is, as I'm just doing a quick scroll up and down, the lowest over-under that I see on the weekend, but it has gone up right now, at least on betonline.ag, to an over-under of 45 points. So even better for you with what you're saying.
My God, I'm taking out every single bank loan I possibly can tomorrow. Oh, no, hammering the under. Hammering the under. Oh, responsibly, though. Responsible loans. Bet responsibly.
You can do it responsibly with code LOCKEDON at betonline.ag.
That's right, baby. That's right, baby. Nice. Company man.
Let's move on to Saturday to one of the biggest over-unders, biggest over-unders of the entire weekend. Michigan is a 17-point favorite against Western Michigan, but that over-under right now is at 67 points. They're saying the Wolverines and Broncos will put on a show.
Why? Okay, Okay. You know what?
It's got to be thinking just a steamrolling by Michigan.
I guess, yeah, but I didn't think their offense was going to be that high powered this year. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. You know what? I do have a rule of thumb: is if something looks really wonky to me, always take that side. Like 66, that seems like a lot of points. There's no way they're going to get to that. And for that reason, I'm going to take the over in that game because I am shocked. That makes no sense. But okay, do each team get to play with like 15 players on offense? That's intriguing. Okay, yeah, I'm taking the over in that one. That's wow. That's a fun fact. Nice find there.
That's what we got. Again, 67 on that game. The 17 points, Michigan, Western Michigan. I mean, you do what you want with that. If you think Michigan's going to be,
I won't touch that. Yeah, I'm not going to touch the spread at all. But I'll take the over, and it'll be at least fun to watch. You know, it's like a Pac-12 after dark vibes right there. Just first team to 40. Good times.
All right, let's try and get through the rest of these real quick here.
Sure.
Any thoughts on either Purdue hosting Oregon State, Purdue -7, or Illinois in that second game of their season? Actually, a 6.5-point favorite to UTSA. I get to those ones quickly because we got a couple big ones to finish on.
I'm sorry. I have no thoughts on Purdue -7. I'm going to need to see something on them before I bet them again. And Oregon State, they are the West Coast version of Purdue football. Like they show flashes every once in a while, but too volatile for me. Yeah, sure. Illinois. Yeah, I'll pick you guys -6.5. Why not? I'm a Big Ten man. So yeah, go get them. Go get them, Bert.
There we go. Company man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the big games. On Saturday, September 4th at noon, Wisconsin and Penn State. Wisconsin, a 4.5-point favorite at home right now on betonline.ag over the Nittany Lions. It's a big game, obviously, and you can make the arguments for either side. Where are you at on this spread?
It's at Madison. It's at Wisconsin. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir. 4.5 that the Badgers are getting at Wisconsin or giving in Wisconsin.
I'm going to have to lay down those 4.5 and take the Badgers here. Graham Mertz comes back healthy. Penn State, kind of a weird year. Yes, I'm kind of being a hypocrite because I talked about Nebraska's upward trajectory at the end of the year, but I'm just going to not even count Penn State's. It's going to be a 1-unit bet for me. Like, I'm not going to do a lot, but I will sprinkle a little bit on Wisconsin just because I love the idea that, hey, we get to see the Graham Mertz show again, and it's at Madison. It's such a scary place to play. Whenever Michigan State goes there, I feel like just horrible things happen. So I just have bad memories attached to Camp Randall. So give me the Badgers. Give me the Badgers.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot because you got the two teams on each side of this conference that are both kind of looking for a bounce back, but also have like the expectations of the bounce back too. Like there's like 6 or 7 teams in the Big Ten that are saying, "Oh, we're going to be fine. We're going to get back to 2019 form this year." But there's only like 2 or 3 that are actually being predicted to do so in that conference as well. And Wisconsin and Penn State are those two. I'm Wisconsin too. I just feel like this team's more ready for it. I feel like that defense on Wisconsin is just all around together, has played more together, and has a little bit more to it to be able to be ready for the start of the season. And of course, the fact that game's at home helps a lot for the Badgers as well. So I'm able to give the Badgers 4.5 points there, or take 4.5 points from the Badgers and not feel too bad about it. Moving on to the other big game of the day at 3:30 p.m. It's Indiana and Iowa. And again, I believe these are Eastern time zone starts that we're listing off. It's 3.5 points in favor of the Hawkeyes at home against Indiana and the Hoosiers. Both teams, again, with really high expectations this season.
Wow, that's a tough line. I don't know if I'm going to be touching that at all. You know what? Who am I kidding? It's week 1. I'm going to be betting on every single game, but this is probably another smaller one. It's just a 1-unit bet, but I kind of like the Hoosiers here just because of who they return in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Of course, it goes without saying that Iowa, they're going to have stout offensive line play as well, but I don't know. I don't think what happened at Indiana last year was necessarily a fluke. I just hope that we can get healthy quarterback play from both teams because I think it's gonna be a fun game to watch in general. I mean, you don't get to say that a lot between these two teams, Indiana and Iowa, but hey, in the year of our Lord 2021, this will be a good one to watch. That's a nice little 3:30 kickoff game right there. Love it.
I would just say if you're someone who's into this betting stuff and likes to watch the way the money goes and these lines move, I'd want to know how the smart money is betting this game because the popular money, is going to go to Indiana. Hoosiers are hyped up. They've got the playmakers, Ty Freifogel, Michael Penix Jr. People are going to see 3.5-point underdogs on the road and think, oh, the Hoosiers are only not favored because they're not the home team. They're going to be able to come in this first. We can get that money. That the public's going to go toward the Hoosiers. I'd be very interested to do that research and see where is that smart money going? Is it pushing that way as well? Or is there some pull coming back over to the Iowa side? And if it ends up being that way, I might have to end up putting my money on that Hawkeye side as well. Just looking at it from point blank, I want to say Hoosiers too. I like Indiana. I think this is an evenly enough matched game that taking the points is just the smart move wherever they are. But I would definitely want to know, as we get closer to game time, where is that money going? Where is that line shifting? Because I'd be very interested to see where exactly the smart people think this game's going to go. Because I feel like I know where everybody, the general public, is going to want to put their money.
No, that's a great strategy. Yeah, because I think I'm falling into the same trap too of like, oh, they're just underdogs because they're on the road, and I'm going to outsmart them. But yeah, maybe
boring.
Sure, of course. Yeah, they're just going to hand it up, score their 17 points that they always do at Kinnick, and make it a low-scoring game. But maybe that works, though. 17-14, you're still covering. You don't have to win this game if you're Indiana. You just got to keep it close, baby. Good teams win. Great teams cover. So let's remember that throughout the season.
Yeah, well, we know that it's going to be really fun to watch, even if it's not going to result in a whole bunch of money for us or anybody else. Play with us, fade us, do whatever you want. We're going to talk more about lines and course and everything with Matt and anybody else who wants to as the season starts up. But Matt, thank you for giving us a quick little preview of what we'll have here this season today. And also going over everything that happened this week in the Big Ten. We're going to continue these previews next week, but I'm realizing that I didn't quite get to as much of the big stuff as I should have. So we'll try and find that balance within our half hour every day as we move forward. Matt, thanks again for talking to us. You can hear him on the Locked On Spartans podcast every day of the week. And where else can the people find you, Matt?
If you want to yell at me about my horrible picks throughout the season, Sheehan_sports on Twitter. Fade me. Just so I'm not responsible and you guys don't get angry at me. Yeah, just fade me.
I am at Nate with Sports. The show is at Locked On Big Ten. That's Big 10. Matt show is at On Spartans on Twitter. Follow all of us. And of course, subscribe, rate 5 stars, everything that you do on wherever you're listening to your podcasts right now to help out the show. We'll be back next week with more Big Ten news, more team previews, everything you need leading up to this big college football season, which, as we're talking about here, is creeping up on us closer and closer. Next Saturday, we've got our first game with that Nebraska-Illinois matchup. We'll be, of course, looking forward to that and everything else next week on Locked On Big Ten. Hey, Nate Dickinson here with Locked On Big Ten. BetOnline.ag is the place to go for any of your online sportsbook needs. The baseball season is back underway. The NBA finals are wrapping up. And of course, I know you're already looking at some of those football futures for the fall as well. Whatever your need may be, as far as sports betting goes, betonline.ag can help you make your money. Head on over to betonline.ag right now for all the best lines, all the news you need to make sure you're up to date before you put those bets in, and we'll get you some free money to start out with too. If you go to betonline.ag right now and use our promo code LOCKEDON, you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's 50% on top of whatever you put into your account that first time you put money in. Just add it on for free, thanks to the people over at BetOnline. It's betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts.